This is the Aventon Aventure 3. For years, the Aventure line has held down the spot as the #1 selling fat tire e-bike here in the US. And the reasons it stayed at the top are simple. It's powerful, playful, stable, and loaded with good specs, all at a price that feels more than fair. And now it's back with a revamped frame and a host of under-the-hood upgrades, including Aventon's new smart module that gives you app-based control over tuning your ride, locking the bike, and tracking its location all right from your phone. There's so much to cover, so let's dive into this ST model and see how it stacks up in our testing in today's review. Welcome riders to Electric Bike Report. I'm Griffin, and today I'm breaking down the Aventon Aventure 3 ST. If you're a fan of all things e-bike, we've got weekly content beyond just reviews, so make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on industry news and the latest finds from the world of e-bikes. So before diving into the full specs, here are my main takeaways after testing the Aventure 3. First off, the feel of this bike is just fantastic. The Aventure was already one of the best riding fat tire e-bikes out there, and I'm glad to see Aventon enhanced it instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. The motor experience is a standout. It's got all the power you need with a 750 watt nominal, an 1188 watt peak, and 80 Newton meters of torque. Aventon helped popularize the pairing of hub motors with torque sensors, and this latest version feels better than ever. You're definitely supercharged, but it doesn't feel artificial or overly boosted. It's more like a souped up version of yourself. That means you can crush hills, fly across flats, and still feel in control off-road. Power delivery is smooth and predictable, so you won't get hit with any unexpected surges on rough terrain. And the second part of ride feel comes down to the geometry and comfort. The bike has a sportier edge, but still allows you to sit fairly upright for comfort thanks to a shorter reach. A new suspension seat post combined with the suspension fork and 4-inch wide tires has a cushy, controlled ride quality to it, even over bumpy surfaces. The new frame is also worth highlighting. It uses gravity cast aluminum, which improves stiffness while reducing visible welds, giving it a sleek and premium look. Aventon's paint jobs have always been underrated in my opinion, and this Java color looks great in person, and the other 3 color options are all solid picks too. And one of the biggest additions is the ACU, or Aventon's Control Unit. This smart system lets you fine-tune motor output and manage a suite of enhanced security features. You can set motion alarms, geofencing, and even lock up the rear wheel, all from your phone. It comes with a 4G chip that gives you a year of free connectivity, and after that, it's only a couple of bucks a month or $20 a year to use. It's great value for keeping your ride secure. Speaking of value, the price is $19.99 as of this filming, which is a great deal. You're getting everything that the previous model did well, with more features and better refinement at that same price. It feels like you're getting more than what you paid for. Now let's look at the rest of the specs. The motor is powered by a 733 watt-hour battery. That battery doesn't require a key, but can be removed either via the display controls or from the app. The bike meets both UL 2271 and 2849 safety certifications, and it can be configured as either a Class 2 or Class 3 e-bike. And you can choose between the step-through version you see here or a high-step frame. Both frame styles are available in regular and large sizes. The ST comes in Java or a cobalt blue, while the high-step comes in a matcha green or stealth black. The tires are 26 by 4-inch knobbies in Nova rubber for mixed terrain capability. And braking is handled by Tektro HDE 3520s. It's a 2-piston hydraulic disc brake with 180mm rotors. The drivetrain is an 8-speed Shimano Alta setup with a 48-tooth chainring and a 12 to 32-tooth cassette. And then up front, there is a Zoom fork branded by Aventon with 80mm of spring suspension travel, preload adjustment, and a lockout. You also get a suspension seat post with 50mm of travel, and then Aventon's sport saddle. The cockpit includes a 680mm handlebar with lock-on grips. On the right is the rapid fire trigger shifter, and then over on the left is your thumb throttle and control pad. And from there, you can change pedal assist levels, activate integrated turn signals, which double as brake lights, or turn on the included headlight. And in the center, you'll find Aventon's full color display with all your key ride data like speed, distance, battery level, and more. It also pairs with the Aventon app, which lets you manage the ACU features that I mentioned earlier. And then just rounding out the extras, you've got included metal fenders and a rear rack with a 59-pound limit. The Aventure 3 weighs 77 pounds, has a 400-pound payload capacity, and features IPX5 rated water resistance. Whew, okay, that's a lot to cover, and if you need to know more details, check the affiliate link below. It'll take you to a full breakdown and help support the channel if you use it before purchasing. Now let's put this bike to the test and see how it performs in our gauntlet of real-world testing. First up is our brake test, and I do this with every bike we review to keep things consistent. I pedaled the Aventure up to 20 miles per hour, hit the brakes, measured the stopping distance, and then repeated the process 2 more times to get an average. The Aventure stopped in exactly 21 feet. And as of this filming, the average braking distance across all fat tire e-bikes that we've tested is 22 feet and 7 inches. So the Aventure is comfortably ahead of the curve. I'm always glad to see a bike that can handle a panic stop when needed, but its everyday braking performance was just as solid. There was no noticeable brake fade during extended downhill rides, and the system offered great modulation, easy to feather or really clamp down when needed. And since it's using a Tektro-hydraulic system, one of the most common setups out there, replacement parts and servicing should be easy to find when the time comes, which is always a nice bonus. The point of our speed test is to see how fast the bike can go in each of its pedal assist settings. While the Aventure 3 does offer ride tuning through the app, we tested everything in its stock configuration to get a sense of the default programming. I ran both a Class 2 and Class 3 speed test to see how it responds under each speed cap, so let's take a look how it did and a throttle test as well. Alright, so Aventon Aventure 3 speed test here. Going around a little over 11 miles per hour without any motor power. It's actually not the worst fat tire e-bike just in terms of getting it up and rolling. Definitely feel the weight without the motor though, so let's kick it on, see what eco mode is all about. So again, with Aventon's torque sensor technology, you know, you gotta push down a little bit just to get a little bit more motor to kind of kick in and reward that pedal effort. You can kind of see as it's subtly raising up my speed here, getting close to about 14 miles per hour. Moving through the gearing, I'm in 7th gear here, hanging out in the low 14s, maybe not mid 14s. Go ahead and pick it up one more time to sport. Yeah, this does a really good job. It's very like performance oriented, very natural, very smooth. Especially as like in trail, it's picking up steam a little bit. It's got some good power to it. It's not over the top in any way, shape, or form, but it actually just, again, just melds really well with how I'm pedaling. It's climbing up mid 18s here in terms of speed. We'll finish things off, move over into turbo. We're gonna, have no problem at that 20 miles per hour limit. There's a good little like surge there, good little boost. Probably gonna feel the effects of that more in Class 3, so let's go ahead and knock that test out. All right, things moved into Class 3 mode now, starting off in Eco once again. So let's see, feels really more of the same kind of compared to what it was in Class 2 settings. Going about 13 miles per hour, picking up a little bit more. So yeah, not a whole lot of change, very subtle assistance from the motor. You can kind of hear it humming a little bit. It's definitely there. But all in all, very subtle assistance. Pedal it out till I pass these riders up here. But yeah, about 14.5 miles per hour, so it's landing right around where we did last time. Moved into sport mode. And this one definitely has a little bit more speed and acceleration to it, more so than it did in Class 2. We're going up towards of 20 miles per hour. Hitting just about 21 before we go into the bend here. I've already maxed out. I'm in 8th gear. And then into turbo mode. Oh, there you go. This is a good burst of power, but you're still able to pedal along with it. Always a crucial thing on these torque sensor e-bikes. Make sure you got a good veer range. Finally upwards of 27 miles per hour. See if we can get it all the way to 28. I'm moving my legs faster just because it's kind of necessary with these speeds in order to keep tension in that drivetrain. Yep, 28, sure enough. Oh boy. That's a lot of fun. That's a really good burst of speed. You're still pretty active and engaged in the process, but it's not strenuous either. So let's go take a look at the throttle test and head back in the studio after that. All right, here's a 0 to 20 throttle test. On your mark, get set, go. It's a little slow to kick in. Wasn't immediate, but then, man, once it gets going, it's off to the races. 20, there you have it. That's a pretty quick one. Pedaling without any motor support was surprisingly manageable for a 77-pound bike. No picnic, but it was doable. I clocked in at 11.1 miles per hour with no pedal assist. And then in Class 2 mode, Eco bumped that up to 14.4 miles per hour. Sport I hit at about 18.5, and Turbo topped out at 20.1. And then switching over to Class 3 settings, the pattern stayed similar at first. Eco mode was at about 14.2 miles per hour, Sport reached 21.2, and Turbo went all the way up to 28.2 miles per hour. Now across both modes, the assist levels feel distinct. And personally, I like simplified systems with just 3 modes, a nice low, medium, and high. It's intuitive and easy to use. And as a bonus, the gear range is sufficient for pedaling without ghost pedaling, although you do have to move your legs a little quicker when hitting the top end Class 3 stuff. I'd say Eco mode in its default setting is totally usable if you're just looking for light, natural feeling assistance. But that said, it's the one setting I'd probably tweak just a bit. I'd bump the output up to maybe like 30% to give it a little more kick, but even as is, it works well for casual cruising. And of course, the good news is you can customize all of this. In the Aventon app, you can adjust torque delivery, total power output, and how sensitive the motor responds to your pedaling. And the beauty here is that you can experiment until you find your sweet spot, and once you do, you'll likely never need to touch it again. All in all, I'm really happy with how Aventon's system performs here, and I think most riders will appreciate the speed and customization that it offers. To find out how much mileage you can get on the Aventure 3, we put it through 2 standardized range tests. Both were run in Class 2 mode for local compliance and to keep results consistent with the other bikes in our database. Now, one test is done on the highest assist level, which is Turbo, and the other on the lowest, which in this case is Eco. Now in Turbo mode, the Aventure delivered a solid 35.8 miles, and then in Eco mode, it stretched that out to 60.1 miles. That's about 3.5 miles better than the average fat tire bike in our database when running it at max power, and it matches the average exactly when running it on Eco. So that is a pretty impressive result, especially considering the Aventure's 733 watt-hour battery. It's on the lower side of average for this category of bike. But where it really stands out is in its efficiency. Personally, I like to look at how many watts a bike burns per mile. On Eco, the Aventure used just 12 watts per mile, and on Turbo, it used 20.5. And for comparison, the category average is around 14 watts per mile on low power and 26 on high. So the Aventure is squeezing more out of its battery without cutting back on usable assistance. Now, that's not just good for range, it's better for long-term battery health too. The less wattage you're constantly pulling, the less strain you're putting on the battery over time. Efficient systems like this tend to age more gracefully. And just one quick caveat, these are real-world results meant to give you a ballpark figure. If you tweak the assistance settings or ride in Class 3 mode, your mileage will vary. But bottom line, the Aventure has plenty of juice for longer rides, or for going a few days at a time without needing to charge. And when you do plug in, the 4-amp charger, which is a higher capacity than most, gets you recharged quicker than average. We take all of our review bikes to a charmingly named place called Hellhole Trail, a brutal 1/3 mile climb with a 12% average grade. Just like I handle the brake test for consistency, Justin does this for all of our hill testing. So let's kick it over to him to see how the Aventure 3 performed using throttle only and while pedaling in turbo mode.
Okay, we're out here on the Aventure 3. We're doing the throttle test, and I'm very interested to see how this does with their new 36-volt system. So far, it feels really peppy. I've tuned it in the app to kind of, again, max power here on Class 2. And so far, about 10.6 miles per hour, 10.3. Looks like it's gonna bottom out at about 10.1 miles per hour on this. Motor-wise, sounds a little better than the previous one. I'll have to go back to see, but it feels really good so far. I'll let you listen here. Yeah, I'd say the motor noise is about average. But I kind of like the pitch. It's a little bit lower, not a high pitch, so it kind of blends more in the background. I love the sound of that rear hub engagement. And feeling pretty peppy up here, 16, 17 miles per hour. So we're gonna go check the tape, see how this does, how this compares versus the previous. But it did feel nice and peppy here on throttle. So we'll turn around and do the pedal and check the tape. All right, we're back out on the Adventure, and now I'm doing the pedal test here. In 8th gear, I'm going to go down to 7th. 15 miles per hour through here. It's a torque sensor, so I can't just pure soft pedal, but I'm really not pedaling that hard. Down to 6th gear now. About 13 miles per hour. The engagement with that torque sensor in the motor felt very smooth and natural. Feels like it's a little better than the last model. I'll let you listen now through this section. You're on your left. Thank you. So yeah, the motor. Motor actually feels a little quieter there. Now I'm hearing a little bit more, so I can get up to 16, 17 miles per hour. Overall, pretty easy to pedal up on this. We're very interested to see how this compares to the previous version.
The Aventure knocked this one out of the park. On throttle alone, Justin reached the top in 1 minute and 17 seconds with an average speed of 14.1 miles per hour. And then while pedaling in turbo, he finished in just 1 minute and 9 seconds for a 15.7 mile per hour average. That is 5 and 4 seconds faster than the fat tire category averages, respectively. These results are right in line with what we saw in the Adventure 2, so it's great to see that motor output remains consistently strong, especially considering some of the under-the-hood changes. This latest version uses a 36-volt system instead of the previous 48-volt one. But Aventon has compensated by increasing the amperage and redesigning the electrical system to handle the load. So while some folks might see that 36-volt figure and assume it's underpowered, the performance clearly shows otherwise. Now, fat tire e-bikes just look powerful, kind of like seeing Shaq walk into a room. Based on the size alone, you expect them to be stronger than average, and the Adventure absolutely delivers. But of course, with its wide tires, it's also just stable and it rides well, so it climbs nicely by all the ways I personally assess. Now, the bottom line, the Adventure climbs as well or better than any e-bike in its class. All right, so we have covered a lot of our quantitative testing, but let's go for one last ride to talk about the ride quality, how this bike actually feels both on and off the road. The Adventure 3 is really just kind of carrying on the legacy and lifting it to new heights in terms of what Aventon's been able to do. The Adventure is just so well-rounded, it's so nicely dialed in, it's very precise, it's fun, it's sporty, it's athletic. It's also practical, you know? This is the type of thing you're going to keep on the road to make your daily commute. There's lots of different ways you can take advantage of it. It comes with fenders to keep you dry. It comes with a, high capacity rack for some cargo. You can get the turn signals and whatnot. Just a lot of good, hey, use this day in and day out. Quality of life things about it. But of course, just the ride itself is just very nice and pleasant. If you like things, ever so slightly on the performance side of things, Let's break down everything that kind of goes in the ride quality. So obviously you get two different styles of frame. You can have the high step or the step through that I'm on. Here on the step through models with the regular and large frames available, Aventon says it'll fit riders from 4'11" up to 6'1". I am 6'1" with a 32-inch inseam. I think they say it's good for people with 33-inch legs. I've got all the leg extension I need, which is really nice. For me, the reach is a little on the narrow side, kind of to be expected. I'm more arms and torso than I am leg, but overall, definitely still within my spectrum, so I'm able to kind of ride this comfortably. Now, while the overall body positioning is a little bit more on the performance side of things, it's not to the extreme, kind of help offset with a little bit of rise that Aventon has put into this bar. It's a 680 millimeter wide bar, which when paired with a 4-inch tire, kind of gives that really nice, balanced, middle of the road handling. It's not too twitchy. It's not too, lazy. It's just, again, 680, 4-inch wide tire. That's kind of the perfect pairing, as far as I'm concerned on fat tire e-bikes. Now, in terms of everything else goes into the comfort, you have, of course, the suspension fork up front, spring travel, 80 millimeters. It's Aventon branded, but made by Zoom. It's very nice, more on the entry-level side of things. It's not a premium fork, but it does all that you need it to do, especially here on the roads, and it's got enough chops to hang off-road as well. Really softens up the road in addition to the tires themselves. If you have a fat tire e-bike, you can, you know, lower the PSI just a little bit, make things a little bit softer, and even more cush if you are someone who places a premium on comfort. It's one of the things that you can afford to do. You don't have to worry about inefficiency of lower PSI because that's what you got a motor on an e-bike for. It's going to help make up for that anyway. Get a little bit of road noise with it, especially with the chunkiness of the tread pattern. But again, it is built for versatility. It's the type of thing, we'll do more of this in a moment, that you can go hit the dirt, you can hit some gravel, not really, you know, feel unsure of that decision. You'll have a lot of confidence as you kind of roam and explore a little bit more. But again, just comfort-wise, really nicely dialed in. The addition of the suspension seat post here just gives you a little bit more squish, a little more bounce, a little bit easier on the body. Just, you know, overall nice, pleasant riding experience. Now, of course, we've talked a lot about the motor at this point. However, it just can't be said enough how really nicely dialed Aventon has gotten this hub motor and torque sensor pairing. It feels very natural while still definitely feeling enhanced, if that makes any sense. It's kind of, you know, if you took the superhero serum or potion or whatever they show in movies and then one day you're waking up and you're a lot stronger, it's almost kind of like that. You feel like you're the one doing it, but you definitely know it's being, you know, enhanced. But it's really a nice overall sensation, really easy to control, and I like things when they're simplified as well, you know. I'm personally a fan of just keep things at 3 different assist levels. A low, medium, high sounds great for me, especially with that combination of the torque sensor. It's really easy to dictate just that by using your feet, just how much pressure you're pushing down with to help establish that ride. If you want something a little bit more relaxed and calm, just enjoying a nice, you know, 16 mile per hour ride along the path, or if you want to get a little more aggressive, put it in turbo, add a little bit more leg, and look at how quickly you're off to the races, building up that speed. But again, just really nice, well-rounded ride with a lot of fun to it, especially if you head off-road. So let's go find some dirt to explore. All right, now, you know, once you get out to this part, this is where the bike lives up to its name. This is where you get to go have yourself an adventure. And this is also just the area where I always feel like the torque sensor and the amount of work that Aventon's put into getting that dialed as much as humanly possible really starts to pay off. When it comes to anything that I take off-road, I just prefer torque sensors, period, full stop. And that's just because, you know, there's a bumpy, herky-jerky nature to all of this stuff. And with that, if you have to pedal through things, it's just really, you know, let's just say there's been some cadence sensors that just, it's a little bit weird. The handling is a little bit more tricky and difficult when it can't really respect how much effort you're putting into it. And if it overkicks or overshoots, it can get problematic. But not really the case here. It's just got it, again, dialed so nicely that it does have all of the power you need. My favorite little test hill here, you know, just a quick and easy up and over. And then, of course, it's got the braking power you want going down the other end to keep things controlled. Now, when you kind of combine everything with the fork, the suspension seat post, it's going to help take the sting out of a lot of these bumps, of course. It's get a little springy, a little bit bouncy sometimes with the suspension seat post, but again, it's going to soften the ride up a lot more than if you didn't have it. But just overall, it's a really fun bike you can kind of do more with. You can just, you know, enjoy it as a daily driver, daily commuter, but know that it's got the chops to go hit the old country road or wherever it is, campsites, and just give confidence. That's always like the key thing on a bike, you know, especially for people who might not have ridden in a while, or maybe they haven't ridden off-road in a while. You want to just feel confident on it. And man, that's just something that wide 4-inch tires can really do for you, especially when they have good grip into corners, able to take things just a little bit faster. Now, speaking of corners and speed, here on the step through, I will say that the one time you kind of notice that lack of top tube is when you start off-roading or going fast into a corner. Again, it's a front triangle, and when you take that top tube out of the equation, there's going to be some flex to it no matter what. Doesn't matter who's making the step through. That's just, you know, your basic physics. Overall, I think this does a fairly good job. The frame itself, I can't say enough about how much I like this gravity cast frame, not just the look, but just in terms of its overall strength. Like, it feels great. You'll feel a little bit of a flex, so I wouldn't go absolutely hog wild. Again, as long as you're just not pushing the limits too much, not the type of thing that's going to hinder you in any way, you're still able to do just about everything on this bike that you would on the high step. You just get the added benefit of a 16-inch step over height, as opposed to something much taller you gotta swing a leg over. So it's just, again, so much fun about the Aventure. Well, that's dive now a little bit further into the ACU and talk about everything that it has. I touched on this a bit during the ride footage, but since we're reviewing the ST model, I want to give it a proper spotlight. Simply put, this bike is a well-rounded ride. There's a reason the Aventure has topped our best e-bikes list for years. It does so many things right with very few drawbacks. And the ST version with its low 16-inch standover height makes it even more approachable for a wider range of riders. The reach is compact enough that shorter riders won't feel stretched out, and it makes what is otherwise a large 77-pound bike feel less intimidating to get on and enjoy. And yes, that weight is still there, but once you're moving, it kind of just fades into the background. It doesn't interfere with comfort or maneuverability in any noticeable way. If anything, its shorter wheelbase feels more nimble than bikes of its class. Now next, let's take a closer look at everything you can do with the display and the Aventon app. All right, so here is a basic rundown of the display on the Aventure. So it's a nice bright LCD display where you can see the colors very easily, like the color-coded Eco Sport and Turbo mode, so it's easier to kind of understand at a glance. And then of course you get your battery percentage up here, and you can see it has got that 4G connectivity going right there. In the middle is the speedometer, and then here down low you have a few different metrics you can cycle through. So this is of course showing the odometer and the expected range based on the power level that you're in. These things are always helpful. They're not 100% accurate, but it'll at least give you a ballpark figure. If you toggle that, you can look at your average speed and your max speed per ride, and of course your total time on the bike, and then how many calories you've, how much carbon dioxide you have reduced by using this instead of riding on a car, which is pretty cool. Now you have, of course, your left and right turn signals on the options of the keypad over here. And then when you have the bike parked, if you hold down the plus and minus buttons, that is when you get a walkthrough of the main menu. Now you can clear the trip from your odometer. You can do the battery lock option. So here's where you'll be able to eject it if you don't want to use your phone. And then you have the ability to, of course, lock the bike entirely. So you can lock out that rear wheel, making it so the bike won't be going anywhere. Now, your display unit can be adjusted into imperial or metric standards, whatever you prefer. You can toggle the brightness of the display and then change the time you want for auto power off, for if you've let your bike be idle for 5 minutes, to have it turn off if you want to choose that. Now the password, you can set a password on the bike, which if you use that in tandem with the bike lock is going to make it secure so that no one can just power this on and unlock that without your passcode. So just a little bit of extra security. This is kind of like another nice feature too here. It's got the ability to look at error history. So when you get error marks, it will actually keep a log of those for you, so you can work backwards if you have any servicing things you're going through. And then of course you can check system info. It'll give you the up-to-date information on which over-the-air update you have. And then of course at the very bottom is the ability to connect to the app if you haven't done that yet. But let's also show you the app walkthrough as well. So within the Aventon app, there is a lot of detail and a lot of different things that you can really do and adjust or take a look at. This is the basic home screen that greets you when you first open it up. You can see you can name the bike up over here. The display, mine is not blue, it's Java, but hey, who's splitting hairs here? So right now it's unlocked. I can lock it. I don't know if you heard that click. That click behind me was locking up the rear wheel, making it so it won't be accessible by anyone. It's not going to go rolling anywhere. You can adjust the light. Take a look at your battery percentage readout. You can get some of the finer details that go along with the battery. And then of course you can see some of those metrics that you can see on the screen as well. Now, when you go into more settings, this is where you get a lot more customization. So screen brightness here, power on and off, kind of like we saw with the display walkthrough. But right here is where we want to take you. So speed limit and metric, you can adjust the speed of the bike. Right now I have it set to class 2, 20 miles per hour. This little warning is making sure you're being class compliant with where you're riding. You can adjust that up or down. It's going to affect, again, the pedaling of your bike, doesn't affect the throttle at all. Now the alarm, this right here, you can turn on and off. So basically what it's going to do, it's going to beep. It's going to let people know if you are moving it at all, that the alarm will go off. So you can just set it to default, actually, to lock when powered off, which is really pretty nice. And then there's some security verification you can do as well. You can set it to verify after a certain amount of days. You can even come in here to activate lost mode if your bike goes missing and you're not sure where it is. So unusual activity detection when this one is on. Oops. So basically this is just the part where if you move the bike, when it is powered off, it's going to give a little bit of a beep. So the sensitivity can be adjusted on this. If you set it to low, it's the type of thing where if you kind of bump up against it a little bit, it's not going to beep at you. Mid, maybe a little bit more. High, tiniest little touch seems to set that thing off. Set the bike password here. So geofencing, again, this is just really cool security that you can add on. You can set the parameters of you know, where you want the bike to be able to be ridden. So this will be something you could potentially give to kids if you don't want them going too far, or if just like, you know, you're like, I'm not going to leave a certain radius or anything like that. I just want to make sure that the bike stays within this zone. It will actually deactivate when you try riding outside of this. So we've actually tested this in the real world. Started and took a bike just kind of along this road, and then I got to this point, and then sure enough, yeah, it shut down and would not work for me anymore. So it definitely works, definitely is effective. Again, you can customize this and move it around how you see fit or how it is that you need. So kind of just some cool enhanced security features there that you're getting with the geofencing capabilities. Let's go ahead, discard and quit. And then from there you have, of course, just your basic firmware updates. You can just make sure you're up to the latest firmware, whatever it is Aventon is packing. Now that does, as far as like some of those advanced settings, we also get some, you know, practical everyday stuff. So right here you can have a record of all of your different trips that you're taking. You can look at it by day, month, year, you know, get some enhanced fitness. If you go over to go right here, this will give you your navigation and your map. You can do some ride planning there. Now over here in Discover is where you actually get access to the Aventon community. So, you know, some community features, upload your rides, show them like how far you're going, show them some pictures of what it is you're riding. You can connect with other Aventon owners. It's kind of like some cool extras. And of course your profile you can build up with different badges and things that you can earn along the road. So again, just a really cool and detailed app and ACU experience. The Aventure 3 ST is a top tier ride by any measure, be it from our testing numbers or just good old fashioned feel. Its motor power is fantastic, and the delivery is second to none among fat tire e-bikes I've tested. It's both exciting and easy to control, which is a combo I love. It makes the ride feel fun without ever sacrificing confidence or safety. And visually, the bike is sharp. I really like the frame design and paint job, and beyond just looks, it's still an incredibly versatile machine. Whether you're commuting, loading up the rear rack with gear, or towing a trailer, or heading off-road into dirt or sand, it's built to kind of handle it all. The ACU system is an awesome part of this e-bike. E-bikes are not cheap, so having built-in tools to help secure and track your ride is a big win. And honestly, my only real con with this bike was the security features work too well. So right now the bike can only be registered to a single user, and our team ran into a few snags during testing because geofencing would kick in and restrict access. Now being able to assign access to other users would be a huge help, and hopefully that comes in a future OTA update. But seriously, this bike is just a blast to ride. With its blend of power, comfort, and versatility, I could recommend it to just about anyone who likes what fat tires bring to the table. It really captures the spirit of what makes e-bikes fun, and it just feels great to be on. That's it for this review of the Aventure 3 ST. If you've got questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments. We always love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more reviews and updates. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next ride.